Start things here. Okay. There are a couple reasons for dealing with these fraction powers. One is I need you to be able to evaluate numbers raised to them, which I think we've already kind of seen we're okay with. But there's something else we can do with these fraction powers that's not obvious at all. Turn the page for a moment. Page 14. We just spent several days, well, you spent several days on adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and stuff. Do you know how to multiply a square root times a fifth root? No. You only knew how to multiply a square root times a square root, a cube root times a cube root. These fraction exponents that we have will let us multiply and divide different types of roots. If you go back to page 13 for just a moment, there are a whole bunch of laws of exponents listed there. We've seen these things all year. Remember, you multiply variables, you add the powers, power to a power, you multiply things. These should not be a big deal. I've been putting these on cumulative reviews. You've been doing just fine with things. They'll obviously be on the midterm exam. These, combined with our fraction powers, are going to be the key to how we're allowed to multiply and divide different types of roots. Let's take a look at letter A. I want to multiply the square root of x times the fifth root of x, which previously you would not have been able to do. Our trick for doing this is I want to rewrite my problem in terms of fraction powers. Square root of x is x to the 1/2. And the fifth root of x is x to the 1/5. I need to multiply those variables together. Think for a moment. When you multiply variables, what do you do to their powers? You add them. My answer, no, not my answer. My next step is going to be x to the 1/2 plus 1/5. We're going to have to add those powers. Groan and tell me what we have to do. Yeah, GCF Common Denominator. We need to get a common denominator. That is going to be a big part of this. We're going to have to get common denominators so we can add things. I mean, the good news is we're in Algebra 2. It's annoying, but we should be able to do that. What is the common denominator between 2 and 5? 10. Okay, so this is like saying x to the... Okay, 1/2 becomes what over 10? 5/10. And 1/5 becomes what over 10? 2/5. You're going to get x to the 7/10. I have no idea why I did that. However, it's not actually there. It now says 2/10, as you can clearly see. Thank you. Good call. X to the 7/10. However, I gave you this problem with roots. I'd like you to give me an answer with roots. What's our root? 7 or 10? 10. 10th root of x to the 7th is your final answer. What is the square root of x times the fifth root of x? It's the 10th root of x to the 7th. Not obvious at all, but I think makes some sense once we turn these things into those fraction powers. How do you multiply? You add the powers. How do you add fractions? You get a common denominator. We get this, and then we rewrite the answer in terms of roots. Do you see how I did that? Try letter B. Do me a favor, don't go beyond B yet, but try letter B. I will be looking for your common denominator work, all that stuff. Basically, your work should look similar to what I have in letter A. I hope you made it x to the 1/4 times x to the 1/7. Multiply means we're going to add, so I'm going to say add those things together. Johnny, what do you make in your common denominator? 28, sure. I think 7 over 28 plus 4 over 28, I think. This is x to the 11 28ths, or the 28th root of x to the 11th. Not terrible. I don't think this is obvious at all, but once you put them into the fraction powers, we'll add and go through that stuff. Now, letter C. Can you take a moment and rewrite C in terms of fraction powers? And then once that's good, I'll send you off to do the rest. Priyanka, what did you make that first thing into? Good. And Meredith, what about the second one? Perfect. The difference here is there's a number up top, it's not just one. Go from there. Get your common denominator. Add those things. How about 15? Does that sound good for a common denominator? Sure. Maybe 25? What's the second one going to become? Yeah, I like that. 18 over 15. Multiply by 3. So maybe x to the 43 15ths? Which should be 15th root of x to the 43. Questions so far? Is there anything else I could do? Nihal. Oh, that didn't matter in A and B, but here, because my power is greater than 15, we can go back to like the first day of this unit. I can break this down and do some simplifying. This is like saying the 15th root of, okay, what multiple of 15 is less than 43? 30. X to the 30th times x to the 13th. What's the 15th root of x to the 30th? X squared. We'll say x squared times the 15th root of x to the 13th, and this is the final fully simplified answer. If on a quiz you gave me the 15th root of x to the 43rd, you'd get all but 1 point. But to get full credit, I need it simplified. So really just look to see, is your power higher than your type of root? If so, go. I'd like you to do letter D. However, I want you to stop letter D once you have your fraction power answer. Don't go back into roots yet, because there's going to be a weird little twist in letter D we have to see how to handle. Try letter D. Ethan, please keep that mask over your nose. Oh, actually, I should have mentioned this. What are you using for your common denominator? Good. Don't go with just 3 times 6 is 18. Go with the smallest possible thing, which in this case is 6. Oh, which is kind of nice because I don't have to change that. Oh, hold on. Okay, this is x to the 2/3 plus 5/6. This is x to the 4/6 plus 5 over 6, so x to the 9 over 6, which would be the 6th root of x to the 9th and all that kind of stuff. Anyone want to ask me a question? Meredith. Fractions are fractions no matter where they show up. If it's a fraction power, it still counts as a fraction. Let's not do 9 over 6. Let's do what, Meredith? Your answer is not going to be a 6th root answer. I always want this with the smallest possible root, and how are you going to get that? By just simplifying that power that you had. So now, I think this looks like the square root of x to the 3rd. We good? Why are you shaking your head, Oliver? Oh, yeah, 3 is higher than 2. You can break it down. Break it down. I managed to throw a whole lot of different things in this one problem. Maybe x, root x. Do you feel like sticking a 2 in there? You can, but if you don't put anything, it implies it's a square root. Simplify fractions when you can, because it will give you smaller roots that you're going to work with. This is how we multiply. We need to divide. This is not going to be a huge jump. Letter E. I'm not going to do that problem as is. Divide a square root by a 5th root. Let's rewrite it with fraction powers. This is x to the 1/2 over x to the 1/5. When you divide, what do you do to the powers? Elias? Yeah, we're going to have to subtract the powers, and how do we do it? Get a common denominator. You know what? Why don't we get the common denominator first, only so I know which one is bigger, because remember, either the top is bigger, put it on the top, or the bottom is bigger, subtract, put it on the bottom. 2 and 5, common denominator is 10. So I think this is x to the, 5/10 over x to the 2/10. Yeah, I think we can subtract and the answer is going to go up top. So I think this is going to become x to the, well, whatever 5/10 minus 2/10 ends up giving us. Do it and write it with a root. Hopefully 3/10. So, I'm off the screen. 10th root of x to the 3rd. Isn't this just like multiplying? We're just subtracting instead. You try the next one. And see what you can do. What's the denominator, common denominator? Kind of ugly. Yeah, it's going to be 56. Maybe 49 over 56 minus 40 over 56. Yeah, I knew someone was going to ask that. No, I was trying to like get around. So, no, you care about which one is bigger. We're not allowed to leave a root in the denominator, though, so if we were left with a root in the bottom, we'd have to rationalize that, and it's ugly, so I'm always going to make these work, so the top will be the bigger one. Yes. Did I actually answer anything? You know what, though? If you did it the wrong way and just did the top minus bottom and got a negative answer, you would just move your answer down to the denominator, so that would the sign would get taken care of. But this is x to the 9 over 56, which can't be simplified, so the 56th root of x to the 9th? Possibly? Can you nod if you got that? Okay, we're almost there. Next page. Oh, you're going to love this. I would like to do the 5th root of the 4th root of x to the 3rd. Just tell me the 5th root of the 4th root of x to the 3rd. Okay, so, in the beginning of the year, we would have called this like a composition problem. We're putting one thing inside something else, where we did like f of g of x and all that stuff. This is actually really not going to be a big deal. Watch what I can do. Ignore the 5th root. What is the 4th root of x to the 3rd? How could I rewrite that? X to the 3/4. Okay. I would like to then take the 5th root of that. Isn't the 5th root like raising it to the 1/5 power? Yes, maybe? Do you see that this says the same as that? How do you do a power raised to the power? What do you do to them, Jackson? What would you rather do in general? Add fractions or multiply fractions? What was that? Why? Because you don't have to do what? There's no common denominator. We're just going to multiply numerators, multiply denominators. What are we going to get here? So we're going to multiply those powers. We're going to get x to the 3 over 20. What's your answer? 20th root of x to the 3rd. I feel like that looked really, really ugly. And maybe not terrible? How about you try the next one? It's a little more involved. And yeah, we're not going to have a calculator on quizzes, but letter H, use a calculator. The numbers get big. X to the 7 over 6 to the 1/8. How do you deal with the 9th root, though? Any new hands? How's the 9th root going to factor into this? Okay, you're not new, but I've heard less from you today. Jackson? Yeah, let's just do another layer of this, yeah. And let's do a 1/9 over there. X to the 7 over, I'm not doing this one in my head. What is 6 times 8 times 9? 432. Ugh. So this is the 432nd root of x to the 7? Say that one more time. Did you still get the same? Yeah. Absolutely, that's fine. Yeah, sure, you can multiply these and then multiply the answer by 1/9, or just multiply all three at the same time. Doesn't matter, you'll still get the same answer. Final thing we need to do, and actually this is not new, this is just let's put a bunch of ideas together. Let's go. Letter I. Can you take a moment and just rewrite everything in letter I with fraction powers? And then I'm going to show you maybe a shortcut way of dealing with this one rather than first let's multiply, then let's divide. Go get your fraction powers and then stop. So x to the 5 halves, x to the 2/3 over x to the 7 halves. Wait, no. Or 7 over 6. Here's my shortcut. Let's not start multiplying, dividing those things. Instead, let's go look at absolutely everything and make absolutely everything have a common denominator. 2, 3, 6. What's your common denominator? Make everything have a denominator of 6. It's going to make the next piece so much easier if we can just take care of the denominator stuff first and then go from there. Maybe x to the 15 over 6, x to the 4 over 6 over x to the 7 over 6. How about we multiply up top? When you multiply, what do you do to the powers? Add them. X to the 19 over 6 over x to the 7 over 6. Okay, time to divide. X to the what over 6? Okay, what is it? Oh, wow. What's the answer? There's no roots. It's just x squared. 100% not obvious at all that this thing was going to be just x squared, but it kind of is. Question, Hunter? You guys go try letter J. I think J is about as messy as they can get. You can do J. You're set. Have you figured out a common denominator? One more time? Can't divide 12 by 8, though. 24 is going to be the one that works there. I feel like I was kind of nice with the 8, 3, 4, 6. I'm not going to make these ones like horrible, ugly, messy, nasty things. When you are done, take a look at the screen. There's a fraction you're going to be able to simplify and then go from there. But I'm getting 31 over 24 up top, 22 over 24 on the bottom. I'm going to keep this up for a moment. Your homework. It's not all of the 6.3 stuff. I made some sections odd. Take a look at what's on the board in the back, 1 through 14. All of those Those are the numbers raised to power. Show me how you're writing with a root and evaluating. No calculator. 15 to 33 odd. Don't do all of those. It'll take you too long. And then the couple at the end. Thank you very much. 1 second.